We now begin the meeting.
Good afternoon. I'm Roy Priest, the Chair of the Housing Opportunities Commission, and I want to welcome you to our April the 8th, 2026 Commission meeting. Present with me at the dais are to my immediate left, Jeffrey Merkowitz, who is our Vice Chair. To his immediate left is our renowned Linda Kuhn, Commissioner. And to my immediate right is Jonathan Miller, Commissioner, and to his immediate right, we have our other member who is Paul Weech, also Commissioner. Two of our commissioners are Zola Shaw and our Chair Pro Tem, Robin Solomon, will not be present with us today due to other matters. Also joining us on the dais are Kevin Brown, Senior Vice President, and also Aisha Mimon, who is our General Counsel. So I would like to thank all of you all who are present and also staff who are present for the meeting today and all of those who are joining us on Zoom. You all have received a copy of the agenda for the meeting. Are there any changes to the agenda? If not, we will adopt the agenda as outlined and we will proceed with that. There's no one, the first item on the agenda is our community forum. We do not have anyone who has signed up for the community forum, and so I'll proceed with the next item on the agenda, which is a report of the president. Also note that our President, Chelsea Andrews, is not present with us today, and Karen Brown will be handling the proceedings today on behalf of the president. We wish her well. She is dealing with personal matters, and so we send her our prayers and ask for soon for her to return. With that, I'll turn to Karen Brown for the report from the president.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, commissioners, staff, and members of the viewing public. I'm Karen Brown for the record, and I'm sitting in for President Chelsea Andrews, and will be delivering the president's report for today's meeting, April 8th, 2026. Next slide, please. Each month, the President's report focuses on one of the three primary goals and objectives of the Commission's 5-year strategic plan, which is in its second year of implementation. And as a reminder, the three primary goals are to expand affordable housing in Montgomery County, enhance the lives we touch through supportive services and partnerships, and to excel as a world-class organization. Next slide, please. Since the launch over a year ago, we continue to track our progress, and you can too on HOC's website, where you'll see that we have achieved so far 59% of our goals. Next slide, please. Each month, we highlight one of the three goals, and this month we'll focus on Goal 1 of expanding affordable housing in Montgomery County. I'm pleased to report, can you move to the next slide, please? I'm pleased to report that for this goal, we have achieved 58% progress. Next slide. And so toward expanding, so the goal of expanding HOC's portfolio of high quality affordable housing, toward that goal, we are highlighting three projects this month. And very quickly, we've spoken to you about them before, and for the public's benefit, we're highlighting on the next three slides, slides 6, 7, and 8, the Sage, Camp Hill Square, and Metropolitan. Very quickly, the Sage is a 413-unit development in Durwood across from the Laureate. We closed on the financing of this transaction only a few days ago, and it's already on its way to delivering 125 affordable units in a couple of years. Camp Hill Square, we're preparing to close that property. 51 units, there are about 34 units that are occupied. We're preparing for a resident meeting, but Camp Hill Square represents part of the overall redevelopment of Heritage Emery Grove, and that is in progress, but we're expecting to have the building completely vacated by the end of the summer. And for the Metropolitan on the next slide, this is the renovation of a 30-year-old building. It initially provided HOC with a major milestone in our history and a mark for HOC having delivered a Class A building in the center of Bethesda. We're preparing to start the renovation of this property in July, and we're excited for it because it preserves 92 deeply affordable housing units in the heart of Bethesda. Next slide, please. Our second item, 1B, in expanding in goal 1 is to expand housing supply in Montgomery County. And just very quickly, I want to highlight just a few things under this sub goal. On this slide, unemployment trends are shifting in the county. On the next slide, you'll see that the employment rate for Montgomery County, which has always tracked on the solid blue line beneath the state unemployment trend and the national unemployment trend, toward the 2025, and there was a gap in the line because of the government shutdown. There's no data to report there, but as you can see, the Montgomery County line is now right on par with the national and state lines. Next slide, please. Rents have decreased for Montgomery County as well, and for the DMV, as a matter of fact. Next slide, please. We're also tracking what's happening with Montgomery County's rent index as it relates to its peers. And you'll see that for Montgomery County, average rents when compared to Arlington, Fairfax, Loudoun, Charles County are much lower. That's concerning. Next slide, please. And then we've reported to you over the last several months that multifamily building permits were nowhere to be seen or barely registered on the charts. Now we've seen a reversal of that trend, which is a good sign. What does this all mean? Next slide, please. Actually, before we get to that, I'll just give my little 2 cents on what it all means. Well, from my perspective, our ability to there's a correlation between our ability to deliver affordable housing or housing units in general, the supply side of the equation, and the market's ability to absorb it, the demand side of the equation. So there has to be a good balance between the two. We're managing through that, but we don't control it. And so over time, with all the extraneous factors that are impacting our ability, it will become more and more challenging for us. However, we're finding new ways, creative ways to ensure that we're constantly delivering housing, affordable housing in the county. And it's going to be a challenge, but we're up to it, and we're going to ensure that whatever we're doing, we're finding the right places, the right spaces, and the right time to bring our products to market. So with that, I'll pause. If there are any questions, we'll try to answer it. Otherwise, I'll invite Ken Silverman to give you your question.
So
Sure.
I'm looking at the previous slide with
Mhm.
the permits, and it's nice.
Please go back one
Yeah.
slide, team, IT.
Thank you. So it's nice to see the upswing again. We know that that there's a gap between permits and delivery of actual units, and in fact, I think I may have shared with the commissioners and the staff an announcement recently that there was one of the already permitted buildings right in downtown Bethesda. The developers asked for a delay in bringing that to market. So it's nice to see the permits coming up, but it's not necessarily indicative of new housing coming online quickly. But I guess my real question is what I'd really like to see is this exact chart for the other counties in the DMV. So how we can, I mean, it's just hard for me to judge what's unique about Montgomery County from this without saying how are the other counties.
Sure. And we can certainly pull those data points together for you. But I would also say, with respect to building permits, because it's so expensive to pay to pull the permits, I think most developers will wait until, for sure, they're moving toward closing before paying the full cost of the building permits. They may need to pay parts of it along the way, but until it's really time to close on the transaction, they're not going to be putting up the cash to pay the full build, to pull the full building permit. So I think it's fair to say that for the quarter four, that those are real units that are coming. Now, I think, yeah, so I'll just pause there. But we can certainly pull the additional data and show how we compare to the rest of the DMV, of course.
Carrie, were any of those Q4 multifamily permits ours?
Okay, Ken?
Uh,
I,
no, they weren't our building permits.
Okay.
I think you will see those showing up, in the next update, hopefully.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
what
I
Karen
mean,
said.
it's good to see that others are.
yeah, and
Yeah.
we'll just make sure of the data, but
I do understand. I think the council is going to have a meeting where they review this, and the planning department will be able to provide more analysis. It does seem that at least a large portion of those are not other affordable projects in the county.
Yeah.
Did you say not?
Not ours, but other
They
affordable,
are affordable.
nonprofit or
Interesting.
otherwise subsidized projects.
Yeah.
You think that's what's driving this?
I think
It's-
specifically
Oh,
those
interest- oh,
it's very
projects
possible.
in that fourth quarter.
Yeah.
That's-
But we're waiting to get
oh, that's
that
very
from
interesting.
planning. And then what to Karen's
It's
point.
very possible. There was a big push by the county,
Yeah.
meeting with developers, ourselves included, to try to understand why some of these projects, even though they'd gone through entitlement, had not, gone all the way through to shovel in the ground, and offering, what can the county do to make them happen. But from what we're seeing, many of these projects, they're suffering from the same malady that we are: high cost, interest rate, and for a private developer, they're driven by return on their investment, and if the yields aren't hitting their numbers, then there's no incentive for them to move forward. For us, we're driven by public good. Obviously, our projects have to pencil, but we have a different motivation, and so while our projects may advance, or the public's projects may advance, a private developer may put theirs on the shelf until they can achieve the yields that they need to.
So if a good chunk of those are affordable, presumably it's being driven by, there's some subsidy
Perhaps,
involved. too,
yes.
and that's what's-
Perhaps.
Low income housing tax credit.
Yes,
Or other,
I think
yeah.
that's a fair statement.
And I would also just note, Housing and the regional does on their dashboard have a regional comparison of completions. I don't believe they have they track the starts, which is essentially what this is showing. And I know there's a lot less data. Being able to compare apples to apples because different jurisdictions just
What
handle
was the website? What was the?
Housing and formerly HAND, the regional housing organization. They have a great dashboard, which we can certainly email to commissioners to share. I think they do show it on an annual base update, so they're not going to have the quarterly updates there. But
it would be really helpful to get the county to county comparison, just so we see Montgomery County in comparison to the other places in the DMV.
Yeah, a lot of the trade organizations do carry that kind of data. Like for example, a real estate locals association, others carry that kind of data. And you can see a lot of it in reported BizNow, which sponsors a lot of it. They also have a database as well. So you can find it also probably in the council governments that also tracks this across the region.
Okay. All right. If there are no other questions, I'll turn to Ken to give our legislative update.
And I will say the slides here are maybe even more already outdated, so I can give some kind of breaking news updates, or at least over the last couple days since we put the president's report together. So at the federal level, first I'd highlight the president did release his budget. We don't have a slide on it here. We will send out some information there, but the really sort of top headlines of the president's budget is not all bad for HUD, roughly a 1% proposed increase to the housing voucher program. They do propose about a 5% reduction in project-based rental assistance funding. I assume based on falling rents, but we'll want to look at that really closely. Did propose again to zero out FSS, Choice, CDBG, Home, a number of other programs, and they did propose to zero out the Continuum of Care program and shift that funding to emergency solution grants. So those are all things that we saw Congress reject pretty clearly in the FY26 budget, and hopeful that they will do so again. Another, to the slide before you, they did include in HUD's congressional justification document released with the budget an indication that FHA is evaluating the FFB program and will honor existing commitments, but does not anticipate making new binding commitments in 2027. So sort of a confirmation of, what we'd heard, that they're at least pausing the FFB FHA risk share program, and we're continuing to work, through NALFA and other national associations to try to advocate on that. If you can go to the next slide, please.
Can, on the FFFB, does that cost the government money? Because the FHA is usually.
No, it's a revenue positive, actually. It earns money for
Right.
the government, and has very little, potentially zero defaults in its history. I don't know that yet, but it's been a very, very positive program, and it's unclear why, other than, I guess, an ideological reason, or that it was, created by one of the prior administrations. I did want to highlight that we cooperated with the Montgomery County DHCA to submit a request for congressionally directed spending for Wheaton Gateway for $5 million. So if that's successful, then that would reduce the need for the county to potentially fill the gap there. Next slide, please. The Senate also passed the 21st Century Road to Housing Act combined, and sort of have highlighted, I know, some of the provisions that the commission has looked at in the past, and then they added new provisions around cryptocurrency restrictions and a ban on large institutional investors from buying single-family homes for rental, and that some of those newer provisions appear to have kind of stalled the bill out for now. So unclear what the next steps will be, or how it would move forward. Next slide, please. Looking to the state budget, actually both houses have now passed their budgets, and the governor signed it this morning. So we do have the state budget passed. We are still, trying to understand what impact it would have for HOC and for housing. So working through that with our state, and we'll provide an update on that, on some of the specific funds. But overall, it looks neutral to positive from what we've been able to hear so far. There is a supplemental budget before Governor Moore now. That Governor Moore sent to the legislature now, but doesn't really affect housing funds. So some of the most dire predictions didn't really come to pass, but they do still have big structural problems that could come up in future years. Next slide, please. We are carefully tracking a number of bills. We did, in the written president's report, provide a really long list of all the things that we're tracking, and but wanted to highlight that 2 of the 3 governor's bills that he was focused on, that he submitted, that related to housing, are advancing. And so the one that is not would be the Starter and Silver Homes Act, which was sort of the missing middle. bill, but the one that, we felt had the most opportunity for us was the Housing Certainty Act, which would kind of prevent, once you have your entitlements, would prevent a jurisdiction from, changing the rules and forcing you to go back, to the beginning of the process. Next slide, please. One breaking news update on the state. We did in the written report indicate that one of the bills that did not make it to before crossover day was the just cause eviction bill. But actually, late last week after crossover, the House took that bill up and revived it and moved it through and passed it. And so it's now in the Senate where the Rules Committee will decide whether to move forward with it. So that bill may actually end up coming through this year. Looking at the county, we did also have on March 15th, the county executive proposed his budget. And it was, it's a complicated budget. It's going to be a tough experience for the council. He did propose a 6% property tax increase that would help to fund the school's request. And we have seen several council members come out against that tax increase, or at least question whether it needs to be so big. If they do want to reduce the tax increase, then they will have to find a way to offset that with potential cuts, although there may be ways to cushion the blow. For HOC, we did receive in the executive's recommended budget. He did not recommend funding any of our operating increase requests, but he did recommend providing about $2 million for Cider Mill in the capital budget that we had requested for roofs and balconies. And that would be spread across FY27 and FY28. And he recommended providing $250,000 to complete and close out the Elizabeth House demolition, also in the capital budget. Our committee meeting with the council is coming up on April 29th. So that will be their review of HOC's budget. Certainly hopeful that the committee and the council will fund some or all of our additional requests, and hopeful to work through that, and then that'll get resolved in May. Also wanted to highlight these two ZTAs, or ZTA in a bill, that don't have big direct impact on HOC, but we think are positive for housing in the county. Next slide, please. And then, Karine, did you want me to?
All right, thank you, Ken. All right, so jumping back into the goals for the strategic plan, this next section, Goal 1C, expand and optimize rental assistance. Wanted to highlight just a few things. The first one is HOC Bridge, which we've discussed with you before, and that involves direct rental assistance, the new program that was formed in collaboration among several divisions of HOC: Housing Resources, Resident Services, Legislative and Government Affairs, and proud to say it was launched. We're now in the throes of the pilot program, and we have the first group of 10 participants, and we're expecting to have first payments made in May. And you may recall that the funding for this is primarily from the alternate payment from the account that we're receiving from developers who are opting out of or making an alternate payment instead of building MPDUs. And so we're depositing those funds, and the interest from those deposits are being used to pay for bridge while they're waiting to be invested in projects. So we're proud of that. Next slide, please. touching a little bit on the Housing Choice Voucher Program, which is another way of supplying rental assistance. Historically, as you may recall, the Housing Choice Voucher funding was based on the spending for the prior year plus an inflationary factor. This year so far, it's based on 99% with no inflation factor. And so we're using 3.1% of our reserves to maintain a 96% utilization rate. That may change, we don't know, but right now that's where we are. And so we do not have a plan currently to increase the program size to 98%. Next slide, please.
Carrie,
Yes.
just so I understand what that means when you say increase the program size to 98%.
So our goal typically is to maintain a 98% utilization. And so because we're having to dip into the reserves to make up for the fact that there's not an inflation factor, pushing it to 98% would, and I believe, cause our reserves, our recommended HUD funded reserves to be lower than the target 4%. So I don't think we're able to maintain a 98% utilization rate under the current funding structure. And
Okay. So what would we need to be able to get back up to 98%?
So I'm going to ask Terry, who's handling the budget and allocating dollars and cents in the Housing Choice Voucher Program, to respond to that, just to make sure I'm giving you correct
Okay.
information.
Good afternoon. For the record, I'm Terry Fowler, the budget officer. I guess this was surprising to us, and we had to rework our numbers for the recommended budget being presented tonight. We did do some stress analysis, and it looks like if we can get between 1% to 2% inflation, last year's inflation was 4.47, and this is the first year that there hasn't been an inflation factor applied. They did say that they would let us know in spring. We're still awaiting whether or not there will be an inflation factor, but it is, no one at HUD is able to give us any indication of what that might be. If we can get an inflation factor, as I said, between 1% and 2%, then we can go back to looking to serve closer to the 98%. But the budget being presented tonight is actually at 95.3% utilization, which was to help us stay at that 4% HUD held reserve.
Okay. And so, yeah, so the inflation factor is obviously not keeping up with inflation.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right, and they're prorating it at the 98,
Yeah.
99%, so they're already giving you 99 cents on the dollar of what you spent last year
Right.
and not accounting for rents going up.
Yeah. And since, I mean, we can expect inflation to start ticking up a little
Right.
bit.
So our hope is that we'll get news that there is an inflation factor and we'll revise our budget and revise the plan, but
I mean, I guess that, part of my curiosity is, we're expected to maintain at least 95%, right? For,
Yes.
mhm,
Yes.
but if at some point, like maintaining the 95% and the reserve come in conflict, I don't know how HUD treats that.
We're measured by not just utilization of units and funds, right?
yes,
Right.
and we're
Or-
speaking of
or
utilization of
funds.
units
Right.
when we refer to the 95.3.
Right, so the answer to Jeff's question, I'm sort of testing my knowledge here, and feel free to tell me I'm way off. We don't have to get to 95, to any specific utilization of units if we use all the money, right?
I would have to defer to
All right,
someone in the
I'll-
program
but
for
it
that. That
means-
goes a little beyond my
But
base
I
of
mean, I
knowledge, but
think so, but I think we want to serve
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
people than pay more in terms of dollars, because it means that it's costing us more, rents are
No,
potentially
totally.
higher, and therefore some people being shut out of the program.
No,
So-
absolutely, but just to respond to Jeff, I think the answer is they look at the number of units you're using or the amount of
Right.
money you're using. So
Right.
you're not gonna come into conflict if you're using, all your money.
Oh, there's
it
no-
still would do
but the
okay there, but
program
we will
people
serve
can-
fewer people.
Right.
That's the problem.
Yeah. I mean, as it is, we'll end up serving fewer people than we would like to
Right.
because we're limiting ourselves to.
And we'll most likely never reach our target of 98%
Right.
people.
Which is frustrating.
dollars.
Yeah.
as well.
And I think
Thank you.
finance also affects that.
Yeah. Thank you, Terry.
All right. And if we can go to our next slide, we're at the same time we're seeing well, on the next slide we're showing that the program is holding at 96%. We saw a little bit of a dip in 2025, but we're now holding it around 96%. Next slide, please. Oh, there was one before that. I wanted to show that activity in the program has increased. We're seeing, can you go back maybe 2 slides? Yes, on this one. We're seeing that activity has increased. I mean, I think this is telling us that people are in need. So, more and more people are looking for assistance. It's indicative by the 96% and the climb that we've seen through current, and that we're holding at 96%. People are, and we're going to be seeing more and more of this. And unfortunately, we can't keep up with the demand. Next slide, please. Maybe jump to, yeah, this one. So, we've talked about expanding our programs. We talked about providing rental assistance in whatever forms, but we also try to remain committed to not just delivering on our strategic plan, but keeping sight of some of the other things that are important to us as a PHA, as an HFA, and just staying connected to our constituents, because that's really important to us as HOC. And so I think all of you commissioners know that we've been connecting with our communities over the years, going out, breaking bread with them, so to speak, just having fun with them and hearing from them. And I think some of the things that we've heard from them, we've come back and tried to make changes to how we work with them. And so this year we've kicked off our Helping Our Communities at 2 towers, coincidentally, Arcola Towers, which is only one, by the way, and Westwood Tower. And so we started this year and plan to continue throughout the rest of 2026. Next slide, please. This one is actually pretty exciting for us. As you know, we've also collaborated with DHC and Habitat on the sale of some of our scattered sites, 20 of our scattered sites. And by golly, we've won an award for it. We thought we were just doing good, helping ourselves and helping Habitat, but we've won an award for it. The National Association of Local Housing Finance Agencies, they've taken note and they've given us a prize for having done that to create homeownership, which will begin to create wealth for low-income families. And so we'll, maybe 1 or 2 of us will travel to San Antonio in May to accept this award. Next slide, please. Just a few other notes on upcoming events. In April, we are in April. On the 16th, we'll have our financial education series, Take Control of Your Finances. On the 18th, Ready for Life event. And actually, the most important one from my perspective, because I'm a little bit biased to our development projects, on May 1st, we'll have the groundbreaking for the Sage. I saw some earth being moved today, and there's a webcam that you can look at what's happening there. I saw lots of dirt being moved around, so we're excited for that. I think that's the last slide for the President's report, and if there are any other questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them. So thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much
You're welcome.
for taking care of that. The next item on the agenda is the Commissioners Exchange. The only thing that I want to just refer to, we sent out, the staff sent out at the request of myself and Chelsea, a request as to whether you all were interested in going to the Homes Conference, which used to be the organization called HAND. And I think, Jonathan, you asked about it, anyone participated in it. I've gone to this conference regularly for the last 15 years. It's a little different format the way they do it. They have major, like major plenaries where they have really good speakers who speak on a range of subjects. Then they break and they go and have exhibit space. You go through exhibitors that are there, have a lot of those. And then they have a formal luncheon where they give out awards. I served as a judge on their awards panel for like 5 years. So it's a very good conference, informative, but it's a little different than going to, other than the plenaries they do at NIRO, for example. They have a lot of workshops. This doesn't have a lot of breakout workshops, anything like that. But it's certainly worth considering if you've got the time to go to it.
Thank you.
Are there any other, Paul, seeing nothing? The next item on it is the Veteran Advisory Board. I know that Pinchuk was supposed to be on virtually.
I believe he'll be calling in to the meeting, the RAB. Okay.
They're calling him? Okay.
Okay. Correction, he will not be presenting today.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we can go to the next item on the agenda, which is in fact the approval of the minutes. These will be the approval of minutes of March 11th, open session and also closed session. Can I get a motion to approve?
Second.
Alderman second, probably moved in second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. So ordered. We now move on to a consent item on the agenda. And this consent item deals with the Metropolitan approval to retain the Metropolitan Development Corporation as the market rate owner of the Metropolitan Apartments. I'll turn to this is a consent item, so it really doesn't require, unless you've got some questions, I would take a motion to approve this item as a consent item. It's been brought before the Development Finance Committee.
I do have one question. I guess, does this mean we're just sticking with the existing air lease, air rights lease agreement?
We have requested some revisions, and there are some changes that are required, which we've made those requests of the county, and we're waiting to start working in earnest through those changes. But we're trying to simplify the process to get through those changes with them, and so this is part of our effort to simplify and streamline the process to get through those changes.
So a change in the deal has not been ruled out at this point, or
Change,
in the terms?
terms of the air rights lease?
Yes.
Well, has not been ruled out.
Okay.
No.
So I was a little confused when I read this, and thank you for asking the question, Jeff. So we are the structure is changing significantly?
So we
Right,
were changing the ownership type from a development corporation to a limited liability company to simplify operationally how the market side of a transaction operates. Really, just to simplify it. It doesn't change the fact that all the market rate units remain in that ownership form. All the market rate units would remain as market rate units. Weren't changing any of those particulars. It's really just how they operate and how we administer that side of the property.
Yeah, I wonder if we shouldn't learn more about that before we vote on this.
I can chime in here. So really, the market rates are owned by DevCorp, and operationally within HOC, DevCorps can be a little cumbersome. So we wanted to move to an LLC. As part of the negotiations with the county, that has become a tripping point. So we want to step that back and keep the market rates in the DevCorp.
So again, we've had a number of conversations in our private meetings, and I want to be careful so I wonder, I just wonder whether or not, do we need to vote on this today?
Yes.
Yes. It's a timing matter.
Yes, and it's really simplification for us operationally.
All right, and
And-
there'll be no change to any
No.
of the other
No,
things we talked about?
no,
It's just
not at
the-
all,
Yeah,
Not
just the
at all.
structure of the ownership structure, that's all it is. Change.
not at all.
But the financing we've talked about, all that
That
stuff.
won't
all
change.
stays the same.
That won't
Everything the
change.
same.
Okay,
None of those things will
And
change.
that's why we made it a consent item, because it's not
Correct.
dealing with the structure of the deal.
Correct.
It's only dealing with the structure of the ownership mechanism.
Right.
okay.
And it's been driven by the county in order for us to get this thing expedited.
Mhm.
So can I get a motion to approve the consent item?
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. So ordered. Thank you. We'll move to the next item. On the first item, under our deliberations, is a presentation on our recommended 2027 budget. And this is an item. Am I correct?
No, did you skip me? I think it's the administrative, regulatory, yeah.
So when are we going to do this presentation?
So we'll do the committee reports and then we'll do the budget.
Okay, I'm just going by the order on the agenda. Okay, so we will go to committee reports then. First committee report is Administration and Regulatory Committee, chaired by Linda Kroon.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Linda Kroom, and I am Chair of the Administrative and Regulatory Committee. The item to be presented this afternoon is approval to submit fiscal year beginning 2026 Annual Public Housing Agency Plan. This item was presented to the Administrative and Regulatory Committee during the March meeting. I would like to introduce Senior Executive Vice President Kaylene Brown to provide an overview of this item.
Thank you, Chair Crum. Again, this is the HOC is required to submit the annual beginning fiscal year plan for the Housing Opportunities Commission. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to Vice President of Compliance, Darcel Cox, who will outline this for you. Again, this was discussed with the Administrative and Regulatory Committee, and she will provide the summary and will answer your questions.
Good afternoon. For the record, I'm Darcel Cox, Vice President of Compliance, and today I'm asking for approval to submit HOC's fiscal year beginning 2026 Public Housing Agency Plan. HOC is submitting its fiscal year beginning 2026 annual PHA plan for the period of July 1st through June 30th. This is a comprehensive guide of HOC's policies, programs, operations, and strategies for meeting local housing needs. This annual update will also inform HUD and has informed the public of HOC's mission for serving the needs of low income and very low income families. Next slide. So there are two components of the plan. There's the 5-year plan and the annual plan. So the commission approved HOC's 5-year plan in April of 2025. However, the commission approved an update to the 5-year plan during the March commission meeting. And that was one update to outline HOC's intent to award PBVs through a non-competitive method. So this year, I'm bringing to you the annual plan update, which will outline HOC's progress over the last year since the approval of the 5-year plan in 2025. Next slide. Next slide. So over the last year, HOC has updated several of their administrative chapters in the administrative plan. These updates have already gone through committee, They have been posted for public comment, and the commission has approved them. This is simply to update HUD and the public of its progress since approval of the 5-year plan. Next slide. Now here I wanted to highlight where there were some updates in the 5-year plan, but things have actually changed over the last year. So I wanted to uplift this here. So for Springvale Terrace in 2025, in the 5-year plan, HOC thought that we were going to provide 48 PBRA units via Faircloth to Red. However, in the 26 annual plan, the update is that this project will include 47 PBRA units under Restore and Rebuild, which is also Faircloth to Red. Had a name change over the last year. Another update from 2025 was that HOC anticipated closing during the summer of 2025. However, there were delays and we closed in April of 2026. In the 2025 update, we anticipated that construction would start during the summer of 2025. However, it is now anticipated to start in April of 2026. Next slide. Additional updates that were outlined in the 5-year plan is that Metropolitan had 38 existing project-based voucher units. However, over the year, further research indicated that all but one project-based voucher unit was removed from the contract, and so we updated the numbers accordingly. We also thought that the main renovations for Metropolitan would begin in June of 2025. However, due to delays, construction will start in July of 2026, and we have added proposed allocation of 20 project-based vouchers to this property. The next property that I want to highlight is the Sage at Westside Shady Grove. There was no language in the 2025 5-year plan of a PBV allocation. However, in our annual plan, the proposed allocation is now 21 project-based vouchers at this property. Next slide. So additional updates, HOC continues to monitor the HOTMA implementation. That date has since changed to full implementation for January of 2027. So we will continue to monitor. There was some required language that HOC had to update in its administrative plan, and HOC did move forward with that. We also implemented the new national standards for physical inspection of real estate. We adopted voucher payment standards of 113% of the FMR. And one major update is that we implemented the new statewide voucher program, which will provide an additional 95 subsidies throughout the county. Next slide. So other projects that we are still working through, HOC is still working through. These projects include Hillendale Gateway, Guernkirk Farms, Metro Point, and Wheaton Gateway. We also highlighted within this plan some of the great work that our resident services team continues to provide to support our customers. This includes eviction prevention, crisis intervention, support for individuals with disability and financial literacy, and a host of other services. Next slide. We presented this information to the Resident Advisory Board on March 23rd. We did not receive any questions or comments, and we did receive a letter of endorsement. Next slide. HUD requires a minimum of 45-day public comment period for this, and the comment period for this plan included 54 days prior to the public hearing. HOC advertised this information on its website, in the Washington Post and the Washington Hispanic. We held the public hearing today at 3 p.m. We did not have any attendees during that hearing, and therefore we did not receive any comments. Next slide. Will the commission join staff's recommendation, which was supported by the Administrative and Regulatory Committee at its meeting on March 18th, 2026, to submit fiscal year beginning 2026 annual public housing agency plan to HUD? This concludes my presentation, and I will take any questions at this time.
Are there any questions from commissioners?
No.
Oh,
That's okay. Guys, do y'all have any questions?
I just want to say the materials that were shared on this were great. Really, it's a nice sort of laying out all the things we're doing and really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Darcel.
Thank you.
If there's no more questions, can I get a motion to approve Resolution 2617? Can I get a second?
it's been properly moved and seconded to approve resolution 2617. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. So ordered.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Before we move to the next item on development and finance, I just want to go back for a minute to the Metropolitan on the consent agenda, because there was a resolution associated with the approval, which was resolution 2616. I want to make sure for the record that we have approved that resolution as a part of approving that action.
Since it's the only item on the consent agenda, it's clear that that's what you were approving.
Okay, thank you. We'll next move to the next item on the agenda, which is from the Development and Finance Committee, chaired by Commissioner Merkowitz.
Thank you for the, sorry, we'll turn this over to Vice President, Executive Vice President Karine Brown for a discussion on the, regarding the feasibility study for our renovation of the Oaks at Four Corners.
Sure, thank you. Before I turn it over to Catherine Hollister, our Housing Acquisition Manager in the Real Estate Division, just want to point out a couple of things. The county revolving funds are available to HOC for use, such as this one that we're requesting. And the funds will be returned to the county once the Oaks at Four Corners, the project is permanently financed. We are in the very preliminary stages of our study, and we expect to complete our work and bring this to full financing using the low-income housing tax credit and HOC issued bonds. We believe we will get to that point in about 18 months or so and be successful in completing a comprehensive renovation of this development that serve very deserving seniors. It hasn't been renovated since it was built in 1985. And with that, I'll turn it over to Catherine Hollister. Thank you.
Thank you. For the record, again, my name is Catherine Hollister, Housing Acquisition Manager in the Real Estate Division. Today's item is requesting approval of feasibility funding for the renovation of the Oaks at Four Corners. The Oaks at Four Corners is a 120-unit property located in the Four Corners neighborhood of Silver Spring. The property was built in 1985 for residents 62 years of age and older. HOC acquired the property in 1995. HOC owns, the property was built on land ground leased by the county. HOC owns the property through the Oaks at Four Corners Development Corporation, and the Development Corporation is lessee on the county ground lease. While the property is in above average condition for its age, it has never undergone comprehensive renovation since it was built in 1985. Therefore, staff is requesting $400,000 in feasibility funding from the Opportunity Housing Development Fund to complete feasibility work for the renovations of the property. Next slide. This slide provides a high-level overview of the property, including critical capital needs, unit mix, and location. It is worth noting that in December 2025, the Montgomery County Council approved the University Boulevard Corridor Plan, which rezoned the property to a high-density, transit-oriented commercial residential zone. Next slide. In addition to addressing the critical capital needs of the property, our primary objective of a renovation is to maximize capital to fully fund the renovation while extracting excess equity for the Commission's broader public mission, if possible. Given the property's smaller scale and current low rents, based on our initial projections, a senior construction loan can only provide about $8 million in proceeds. Therefore, staff is prioritizing a 4% LIHTC resyndication and tax-exempt bond issuance to bridge the remaining gap. To maximize this tax credit equity in our preliminary analysis, staff has structured the transaction to include the property's full appraised value and the eligible basis. Since there are insufficient cash proceeds to pay the upfront acquisition costs, HOC will carry a $10.8 million seller note, a non-cash maneuver that completes the capital stack while significantly boosting the total equity generated. While staff has maximized developer fees in these early projections to capture all available funds, staff expects to defer a portion of those fees to ensure the project's long-term feasibility. These figures remain preliminary and will be refined as we finalize the physical scope of work and confirm the property's value through a formal appraisal. In order to begin feasibility studies for the potential renovations or redevelopment of the property, staff requests feasibility funding in the amount of $400,000 from the OHDF. The summary and recommendations can be found on the next slide. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions from the commission? I would just note that this item was brought before the committee, the Finance and Development Committee, and had a thorough discussion, and the committee supported the staff's recommendation. And so I will make a motion that we approve Resolution 2618.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve Resolution 2618. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. So ordered. Thank you. Can I get a motion to recess the meeting in order to convene the Development Corporation meetings?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Sorry, Commissioner Priest, we still have the budget presentation that we were gonna do.
Yes.
Okay. We will go back to an item that we passed over, which was a presentation for the fiscal year 2024 budget. With that, let me, as a preliminary matter before I turn this over to Kayleen, is indicate the fact that this is the beginning process of approving our 2027 budget. And this is normally a presentation that is made by the staff to essentially acquaint us with the outline of that proposed budget. And then, in fact, presentations are made to the Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee over a course of a series of meetings where they go through a presentation on each fund that supports the budget. And in those meetings is where we get into detailed discussions with the staff relative to the budget about those matters. And ultimately, this will lead to an approval of the budget at our June meeting. And that's the plan right now to do that. So the full commission will have an opportunity to, in fact, ask detailed questions and have time to discuss this prior to its adoption. So I'm saying that right now because this forum is just a way to present the budget. It's not for us to get into detailed discussions and questions and answers around the budget. They're just presenting the budget to us. They also will present to us, as normal for the last few years, a budget briefing document that will also give you much more details about the budget. And so, again, I want to just point that out before I turn to our Executive Vice President, Kayleen Brown, for a presentation to introduce this item.
Okay. And so I'll be very brief, but I wanted to just highlight for the board, staff, and the viewing public that each year staff undertakes this really arduous task of collecting massive amounts of data. I spent hundreds of hours meeting in person, on the phone, and burn up chunks of computer time, really. And this year, they even hosted budget boot camp, really trying to ensure that the data that they put into creating this budget result in information that's accurate and that our fiscal year operations for the next year, next operating period, reflect the best estimate of what we can expect, what you can expect from our budget. And we'll spend, as Commissioner Priest pointed out, several weeks just discussing and making decisions about our path forward for FY27. Terry Fowler, our budget officer, and her team should be really applauded for the work that they've done, and Tim Getzinger under his leadership as well, because it's been, quite a challenge, and they've put forth this budget that we will hear from them shortly. But I think they've done their best job, and we'll see what they've managed to pull together. It's been a challenging year. We've been talking about it for quite some time, and as things continue to improve, which we believe they will, the budget will continue to improve. So, with that, I'll turn it over to Tim Getzinger, our CFO, to introduce the budget along with Terry Fowler.
Thank you, Senior Executive Vice President Brown. Good evening, Commissioners and the viewing public. For the record, Tim Getzinger, Senior VP of Finance and CFO. Also, thank you, Commissioner Priest. You took most of my talking points already, but I'll go over them anyway. And again, I wanted to thank and recognize the budget team for compiling this recommended budget, which is nearly $642 million and seeks to address numerous challenges, such as interest rates and inflation, as well as bad debt and uncollectibles and federal government-related issues. This budget also affords us with many opportunities to accomplish our mission. We look forward to providing you tonight with an overview of the FY27 recommended budget. In the coming weeks, we will be providing you with detailed presentations and budget books. Most of the changes from the present budget are on the capital side, with modest increases in the operating budget accounting for increases in the Housing Choice Voucher Program, bond programs, as well as maintenance and collective bargaining agreement items. As a reminder, the budget is presented in an iterative manner. The recommended budget is presented tonight at a high level. Individual meetings with the Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee will later be held to review the budget in depth and to discuss potential changes by fund. The agency maintains 5 funds, including the General Fund, Public Fund, Multifamily and Single-Family Bond Funds, and the Opportunity Housing Fund. A tentative flow of the events and budget-related items are as follows. Tonight, again, we are meeting to discuss and present the President, Executive Director's FY27 recommended budget. At or around April 15th, we will be providing you with the FY27 recommended budget book. On April 17th, we will be meeting with the Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee regarding the general and public fund budgets. On May 5th, we will be meeting with the Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee again regarding the mortgage finance and real estate and opportunity housing budgets. And then on April 10th, we will have the final meeting with the Commission regarding the adoption of the fiscal year 2027 budget. Additionally, during the aforementioned May 5th Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee meeting, the budget team will be providing a reforecast of the FY26 property budgets to better align them with the current fiscal environment, with specific attention to elevated maintenance, utility, and bad debt costs. I again want to commend the budget team, which is working hard to finalize the recommended budget book. This will be the 5th year in a row after a decade's absence in compiling this recommended budget book. And in doing so, we will continue to provide a high level of fiscal and operational transparency. And with that, unless there's any questions, to present the FY27 recommended budget is Terry Fowler, our budget officer.
Thank you, Tim and Kay-Reen. Good afternoon. I think we might even have moved to good evening, commissioners, viewing public, and staff. Again, for the record, my name is Terry Fowler, the budget officer at HOC, and I will be providing a few highlights of the executive director's president's FY27 recommended budget. On the first page of the packet, you will see that the FY27 recommended budget being presented today includes a $395.3 million operating budget, which is an increase of $16.7 million from the amended 26 budget. That's primarily based on increased interest income and expenses in the bond program, higher transfers to cover the housing choice voucher housing assistant payment costs due to the proration issues and lack of an inflation factor that we spoke early to, and rent increases at the properties. The capital budget presented tonight is $246.5 million, and that is a decrease of $218.8 million from the 26 budget, based primarily on changes in the development budget projects being included. We have had the removal of the headquarters we are now occupying, so that was a reduction, and there have been other changes as well that we'll present over the coming weeks. If we can move to page 17 of the packet, please. Thank you. This presents the budget by fund. As you can see, the budget is balanced with a planned draw from the general fund operating reserve of approximately $4.6 million, in addition to the projected draw from the general fund operating reserve. The budget assumes the use of proceeds from the sale of a property as well. Although the COVID pandemic, we're 5 years past when it started, but this budget still continues to address and recover from its adverse fiscal impact on the agency, resulting from primarily our decision to not displace residents during the worst of the economic turmoil. Our asset management, property management, and maintenance divisions continue to assess the needs of our portfolio and have begun to create a capital improvement plan to address property renovations and preventative maintenance, as well as third-party property management oversight for our contract-managed properties. These efforts, combined with staff development and our investment in technology solutions to create a more agile and data-driven decision-making environment, will enable the agency to respond to the aforementioned issues and positively impact our properties, our overall financial performance, and improve our customers' experience in accessing resources and assistance. Can we move to slide 18 of the presentation? This slide presents our budget by the major categories of our operating income and expenses, and our non-operating budget income and expenses that you can see in great detail, but we will move to page 19, which presents this in a graph format. As you can see on this slide, the operating income is approximately $331 million. Of that, grants make up approximately 44.45%, or $175.7 million of our operating income to the agency. The majority of this is the housing assistance payment subsidy received from HUD, which for this budget is $141.8 million. We also have county and state funds included in this grant category. The second largest piece of our operating budget is the property related income. That represents 31.27%, approximately $123.6 million. In addition to those items, we also have management fees in the form of the fees generated by our development and financing activity, as well as overhead fees paid by the revenue generating divisions. Moving to the expense side on page 20. The composition of our expenses is approximately 73.69%, or $291.3 million, are our operating expenses. Again, our housing assistance payments is the largest portion in here, and the expenses are about approximately $143.7 million. The non-operating expenses of approximately $104 million are comprised of our debt service contributions to reserves, various transfers between our funds, restrictions of our cash flow, and the development corporation fees, which is the mechanism of receiving cash flow from our unrestricted development corporation properties. If we move to page 21 of your packet, this chart depicts the distribution of our budget of what is externally restricted, internally restricted, and discretionary. And you can see that of our $375.9 million budget, approximately 38 million, or just 9.6%, is discretionary. The restrictions that we have are either grant or bond requirements, debt service or reserve contribution requirements, or internal restrictions to cover cost of operating and maintaining our properties. If we move to page 22, this chart shows the capital budget. It is comprised of capital improvements to our main offices for our information technology division and our opportunity housing properties. That portion of the $246.5 million budget is $10.4 million. In addition, you see the list of capital development projects that are included in this budget, which total $236.1 million. If we move to the charts on page 23 and 24, this first chart shows you the revenue to support our capital development budgets and our capital improvements. Unlike our operating budget, where the distribution remains pretty constant from year to year, the distribution of both the sources and the uses on the capital budget change significantly each year, and that's driven by the development budgets that are included and how those projects are actually funded. As Tim mentioned earlier, we will be going through the budget in detail over the next 2 months with the Budget Finance and Audit Committee. We'll provide updates or any revisions that may occur between now and June when we bring you the proposed budget for adoption. I do want to also thank not only the budget team, but all the departments and staff of the agency, because this budget, as Executive Vice President Karine Brown mentioned, is the job of the whole agency. Numerous meetings, numerous back and forth, a lot of work goes into pulling together this budget, and it is not a one department job, it is an agency job. And I want to thank all who contributed to the budget that we've presented tonight and look forward to our more detailed discussions. As mentioned, we are in the throes of putting together the recommended budget book. We're having a few challenges with software, but we will have that ready for distribution next week. That will provide you more in-depth information, not only of the numbers, but of the work of the agency and all that goes on here and how we affect the lives of the residents in Montgomery County. And we look forward to addressing your questions in the Budget Finance and Audit Committee meetings. Thank you.
Thank you all for your presentation. I'm always so effusive about talking about our budget director. The people ask me whether she was related to me. I said, no, I just recognize talent. And so we appreciate the work that you all do, and also the staff in getting this to us. Any discussion, anything from commissioners?
Can you just tell me what the MIA energy funding is? Right down here. Looks like it's 1,586,000. Could you tell me what that is?
I would have to defer to our real estate development division.
Oh, okay.
That is a funding source in one of the development budgets, but it's something new that's come up.
Right. I never seen it before.
Catherine? Can you explain?
MIHA. Thank you. MIHA.
Energy efficiency
Housing.
The MIHA program is a state energy efficiency program. The acronym is I can look it up. It's Maryland Energy Efficiency and what? And Housing Affordability Program, which we've successfully used on many projects.
Thank you. I just wanted to know. It's the first time I seen it on, and so I wanted to know.
Us
Thank you.
also.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I will echo Roy's comments on, sort of what a good presentation and, all the work that goes into this, and recognizing also that it is a whole of agency effort. No question at this point, just, a comment, of that, it's been a topic of discussion in past meetings, and I know it's been a source of frustration for all of us around, some of the numbers around tenant income. And so, I know we are making efforts to increase that number, and also making efforts on the budgetary side to try to nail it down, what we can actually expect. And I know we've always tried to be conservative, and we've still fallen short of it, not always conservative enough. And so I do look forward to hearing more in the discussions just about the approach that the budget team has taken to making those projections for the upcoming year.
And I will say to that, and Ms. Brown mentioned it earlier, we really, in this budget cycle, it's hard to swallow as a budget officer, but the reality is the reality. And we did not want to present something that we would not be able to deliver on. And so the budget, there were many discussions with property management, with maintenance, cross-divisional discussions of just where we are in coming out of this crisis and what we can realistically expect to achieve next year, especially in light that we're not driving that ship. We're not in control of what's being paid to us, and we're not in control of how quickly we can get through the courts. So it was a very challenging year to, produce that and acknowledge that there are certain things out of our control, and we do want to bring you the best picture that we can offer you at this time with those constraints.
And that's exactly what I think, the commission needs to understand or know. And, if, we don't want to be overly optimistic. I know we have tried not to be. And I think we just need to take that hard look at, what, as you said, Terry, what the reality actually is, and so what we can expect, and so that the commission can make decisions about the budget, and knowing what those trade-offs are, knowing, what we can expect in terms of income, and what that means we won't be able to do, or how we do, or how can we do what we need to do still. So, thank you.
Johnson.
Thank you. So again, great presentation, really, really good information. I wasn't on the commission at the time, but we absolutely made the right decision not to pursue eviction in the middle of COVID and in the months and years that followed. And I think we're making the right decision now to pursue what we need to do so that we can do the work, the broader work we need to do, which is to serve the low and very low income people of the county. So thank you for that. Can we go to slide 17 for a second? I just want to make sure I understand. So the draw from the general fund, that all understand, is preliminary $4.6 million. Where does that leave us in terms of reserves in the general fund?
So within the reserve, our last report, thank you. I don't have the reserve report in front of me, but we had 11 million unrestricted at the end of December. We've always had a 1-year earmark for the debt service on the headquarters. And so the amount that we have here is not directly tied to that, but it is very close to what that amount is. So we will still have a threshold above what our minimum is, but it will impact the general fund operating reserve if we do have to draw these funds.
So again, just to make sure, so our goal is to have a 1-year general fund reserve.
Within our reserve, we have it earmarked to always have a set aside to cover 1 year's of debt service. If we were to draw this, then we would have to earmark from the remaining balance to maintain that 1 year debt service.
And so what is the total balance? So I understand within the total balance of our G4 is a 1-year.
So the current cash balance through Q2 was 11.8. There is a $4.6 million reserve for the headquarters because that's what the annual.
What was that number? The 11.8, and what for the headquarters?
For the headquarters, the annual debt service is about 4.6 million, so that leaves us about 7.1 altogether. What I would say is that this is what the recommended budget is. However, there are other sources that we cannot point to yet because there are actions that will be brought to the commission in the future, which could increase the flow of funds in FY27, which we expect will reduce that amount. But
Reduce,
cannot
I'm sorry, reduce.
reduce the amount of the draw on the general fund.
Oh, okay, so increase the amount of the reserve.
Not necessarily increase the
From-
amount, but to just
Right,
to
it-
leave it there.
Don't need to use
Yeah.
as much.
Right.
Yes.
Increase from this number in
Yes.
essence.
Yeah.
Yes.
I-
And
I
that is typical that we have
Okay.
seen. We come in, we do have changes in the works, and some may be positive, some may be
Right.
negative. This is a point in time projection as we work through upcoming
so
decisions.
So just to make sure I understand, so 11.8 minus 4.6, leaving us with the 7.1.
Mhm.
And this 4.6 comes out of the 7.1 essentially?
That
No.
brings us down. If we draw this, it'll take
I
us
see,
down to
I
the
see,
7 million.
I see, the 4.6 is for the, okay.
Yes.
All right. And what is 1 year, and what would the 1 year, what's the number for the 1 year?
Debt service.
So
Approx-
Just that is the 4.6?
Mhm.
Okay, all right, so we would.
It's
be-
very close to the
And
shortfall
so,
you see here.
yeah,
Okay.
these are some of the things that we'll have an
Into
opportunity to work
detail.
through
Yeah,
during,
but-
because there's a lot of details to work through.
No, understood,
There's a
but
lot of details to work through.
I want to make sure I understand the broad
Understood.
picture. And then on the next, I just want to understand a little bit on the next slide, the transfer between funds. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure, so the way our budget is structured with the 5 funds, we can't move money between them without getting approval for the transfers. So within the income that you see there, that is draws from our bond programs for the administrative cost of the multi and single family bond. It includes the draw from reserves. It also has transfers from opportunity housing into the general fund of the cash that we receive from the properties. Because you're crossing funds, you have to have a
We're making
mechanism
an
by which to
accounting
do
of it.
that.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you very much, very helpful. And just out of curiosity, can we describe it as a boot camp, budget boot camp?
Oh,
Right.
it was,
And I'm just wondering who the drill sergeant was.
Well,
the
this was
budget office.
I would actually say this was initiated by Ross Lloyd, our Vice President of Property Management. He asked to conduct boot camps for our internal property management staff, as well as bringing in each contract managed company for a day with us. There were discussions of what was currently happening at the property, what the outlook was, questions on how to develop the budget, and guidance on where things belong. They were day-long sessions. A lot of great information went into it. It was the first year that was done. I believe that going forward, they'll be better prepared for what to expect when they attend. But it was an initiating year of that, and Ross Lloyd was the initiator of requesting that. That happened in late November into the first 2 weeks of December.
Sounds like a great idea and a lot of learning taking place. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. Well,
All right.
Let me ask just a small question. So by the time, guys, by the time June comes, these numbers will change, right? That's what I wanted to know. Okay, thank you.
I want to thank you all very much for the presentation, and we look forward to the rollout of this process.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Now
Can
we
I
may,
do it now?
now we may recess.
Can I get a motion to recess the meeting in order to convene the Development Corporation meetings?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. We will now convene the Development Corporation meetings that are listed on the agenda. The Development Corporations are entities that are wholly owned, controlled by HOC, and own various properties for each development corporation. The Board of Directors is comprised of the HOC Commissioners, and the officers are the same as the officers of the Commission. I now call the meeting of the Metropolitan Development Corporation to order. The item before the board is a consent item requesting approval for the corporation to remain the market rate owner at the Metropolitan Apartments. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 26-002ME?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Signify by saying aye. Opposed is nay. So ordered. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Oaks at Four Corners Development Corporation to order. The item before the board is approval to accept a loan for feasibility funding for the renovation of the property. Is there a motion to approve the resolution 21-010C?
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let me figure out where we are.
Here.
Can I get a motion? Am I-
Commissioner, you can just reconvene the HOC meetings and then you can go to the closing
So
statement.
we have now completed the development corporation meetings. I will now reconvene the meeting of the HOC Commission. And with that, this is crazy.
Gotta read that.
I do use my closing. Pursuant to Section 3-305B and D of the General Provisions Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, I move to adopt the written closing statement dated April the 8th, 2026, and to adjourn this open session to a closed session to discuss HOC's scattered site properties. HOC must discuss this topic in closed session to protect a third party's confidential commercial and financial information. Section 3-305B13 allows this meeting to be closed. A member of the public attending this meeting in person can object to this closed meeting now. A member of the public that's watching this meeting in real time on the YouTube can object to this closed meeting by commenting in the YouTube chat box or by contacting HOC's General Counsel. Instructions can be found in the Open Meetings Act objection procedures, which is posted on HOC's website. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed is nay. So ordered. We are now closing the general meeting of the commission as of 5:33 p.m. Thank you all. We will now go into closed session.
I think you must have been looking up for like an.
Live stream has now ended.
That out yourself, or